Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar organized by the Belgian Foreign Trade Agency and its partners, the FPS Foreign Affairs, Flanders Investment and Trade, AWEX, and HUB.BRUSSELS. It takes place on the occasion of the release of our last sectoral publication, Belgian Health Technologies. We have a charged agenda for the coming hour, but allow me to just quickly run through a few frequently asked questions. First of all, the slides of the speakers will be made available. You'll receive them via email and find them on our website together with the study. This webinar is recorded and will be uploaded on our website as well. Also, the sectoral publication Belgian Health Technologies will be released immediately after the webinar. This webinar will end with a Q&A. In case you have a question for a speaker, you can put it in a Q&A together with the name of the speaker you address it to. In case your question won't be covered during the webinar itself, we certainly answer you at a later stage. To kick off the webinar, I'd like to welcome my colleague Lorenzo van Elsen, International Trade Analyst at the Belgian Foreign Trade Agency. He's in charge of the study and he'll go through the main findings. Lorenzo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christelle. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. Let me first start by saying that although health technologies are more and more widespread, they do not prevent you from having a cold. So excuse me if I should cough or sneeze during my presentation. Let me also first start by thanking our partners, the FPS Foreign Affairs, Flanders Investment and Trade, the WALLONIA Trade Investment Agency, and HUB.BRUSSELS for yet another successful collaboration, and this time on Belgian health technologies. As Christelle mentioned, the entire study will be made available on the website of the BFTA after the webinar. So I will first start my presentation by giving you an introduction on health technologies and some facts and figures about the European and Belgian health tech markets. We will then together have a look at current trends in the industry and how the industry coped with the pandemic. Finally, some of the challenges the health technology sector is facing will be discussed. As you know, the health technology industry is a dynamic and innovative sector working to save and improve lives. Health tech companies bring a vast array of technological products and services and solutions onto the market with the ambition to improve patient outcomes and have a beneficial impact on health by living longer and a beneficial impact on the quality of life by living better. If we look at the European medical technology industry, its market size is estimated at roughly 120 billion in 2018, according to MedTech Europe, and is thus a driver of economic growth and job creation across Europe. For that same year, it was estimated by BMedTech, the Belgian Federation for the Medical Technology Industry, that the sector generated a total yearly turnover of around 3.5 billion euros in Belgium. Medical technology is thus not only crucial for Europe, but also for Belgium, for its economic well-being, and provides quality employment and makes a substantial contribution to the European trade balance. If we look at some of the key indicators that allow to gauge the state of the industry, which are innovation, companies, and employment and trade balance, we will see that the sector is truly of genuine importance for Europe and Belgium. We can see by the high number of patents filed by medtech companies that the industry remains one of Europe's most innovative sectors, with health tech companies investing heavily in the development of new technologies that are beneficial for patients and healthcare stakeholders. At the European level, more than 14,000 patent applications were filed with the European Patent Office in 2020, representing 2.6% growth in patent applications compared to the previous year, 2019. that can be seen on this graph. This also means that the medical and health technology field accounted for 8% of the total number of patent applications throughout Europe, which is the highest among all sectors in Europe, right before communications and computer technology. Companies and employment is yet another key indicator to gauge the state of the health technology industry. And with more than 32,000 medical technology companies in Europe and over 200 in Belgium, the medical technology sector directly employs more than 730,000 people in Europe and almost 18,000 in Belgium. Moreover, according to a survey conducted by BMedTech, among more than 100 Belgian companies in the sector, Belgian medical technology companies also expect their profitability to increase significantly in the coming years. As you can see on this graph, about 41% expect a slight increase, and I don't remember, 28% expect a serious growth in the coming 5 years. Finally, if we look at the trade balance, Europe in 2020 had a positive medical devices trade balance of 8.7 billion euros. And its main medical device trade partners were the US, China, and Japan. It is more difficult to evaluate that across Europe because the medical devices trade balance of individual countries varies a lot. But if in 2020 we look at the international trade balance indicator, which includes also intra-community trade in Europe, it was the highest in Germany and Ireland, followed by the Netherlands and Switzerland. Right after these 4 countries, Belgium came in 5th in Europe with a positive medical devices trade balance of 917 million euros, which can be seen on the following graph. In this way, Belgium keeps on strengthening its position as an importer and exporter of health technology and has become one of the world's major hub for the distribution and supply of medicines and vaccines, namely in times of COVID-19, but I will come back to this later on. Also, between 2015 and 2019, Belgian exports in the sector increased by more than 20%, by 21.5% to be precise. And this growth is mainly due to an increase in exports to the US, which has become and still is a main destination for Belgian exports of medicine and vaccines. If we have a look at current trends within the medical technology industry, 2 trends are clearly seen as opportunities. The first one is the digitalization of healthcare, and the second one is the shift of care outside hospitals, closer to the patient's home setting through e-health applications. By driving the digitalization of healthcare and e-health, we will undoubtedly strengthen our healthcare systems at a time of growing shortages in the healthcare workforce, at a time of aging populations as well, and rising rates of chronic diseases. So as I said, one of the main drivers of progress in healthcare is digital development. Over the last decade, many applications in this context of administrative automation, medical health, electronic patient records, telemonitoring have been developed alongside each other by authorities, healthcare actors, and private companies. This is why, in order to speed up the integration of these innovations and to coordinate existing initiatives, the platform HealthTech.Belgium has been launched. This initiative also allows to improve Belgium's visibility in the area of health technologies. The use of e-health applications in the healthcare sector is also one of the most promising areas of healthcare innovation. These applications generate information and data that are critical for the prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and remote monitoring of health and lifestyle. And in this sense, they play a vital role in improving health outcomes and in making health systems more efficient. Ultimately, it is the ambition of e-health applications to enhance the quality of life of patients and their carers as well, and to advance public health and medical knowledge. In Belgium, a survey on the use of e-health application has been developed, which is the e-health monitor. And its ambition is to document and the various experiences of healthcare providers and citizens with regard to the ease of use, the satisfactions or reasons for using or not using specific e-health applications. It appears from that monitor that Belgian healthcare providers and citizens alike largely perceive the benefits related to the use of e-health applications. However, the monitor also showed that both healthcare providers and citizens, so potential patients, lack the knowledge about the possibilities of e-health. So there is still some work to do on the technological knowledge, both of professionals and of citizens. Of course, during this pandemic, the health of people was largely affected, and the economy of countries around the world as well. The medical and health technology industry worked to support the efforts against this pandemic. And the sector did so by supplying COVID-19 diagnostic tests, ensuring that healthcare professionals could work safely and that citizens disposed of and still dispose of protective equipment, such as gloves, face masks, etc., or by providing respiratory support equipment during intensive care treatment. Belgium was and still is a leader in the conduction of clinical trials in Europe. In the race for COVID-19 vaccines and treatments, Belgium's pharmaceutical and medical industry is playing a leading role. According to the Federal Agency of Medicines and Health Products, in December 2020, 38 clinical trial applications for treatment or prevention of COVID-19 had been submitted in our country. 32 clinical trials for COVID-19 medicines conducted, for example, by GSK or Takeda in Wallonia, and 6 clinical trials for COVID-19 vaccines, which have, for example, been conducted by CureVac in collaboration with the UZ by Janssen Pharmaceutica, the Belgian branch of Johnson & Johnson, or by Xavier and company Eterna, which has been interviewed for this study, and the interview can be read on page 44 of the study. Finally, in terms of production of COVID-19 vaccines, Belgian pharmaceutical companies are also among the leaders in Europe, namely thanks to the central geographical position of Belgium and its state-of-the-art multimodal logistics infrastructure. As a matter of fact, 3 vaccine developing groups have decided to carry out part of their production in Belgium. As you know, these are Pfizer, GSK, and AstraZeneca. The pandemic was also a trigger to accelerate the digitalization of healthcare, with the health technology industry developing all kinds of new medical technologies with high added values in times of COVID-19, which put our healthcare system under enormous pressure. While guaranteeing the same level of quality and continuity of care from a safe home environment, e-health applications kept patients out of hospitals and avoided any physical contact between patients and health professionals. These digital health technologies allowed for the remote monitoring, diagnosis, and treatment of patients, while at the same time relieving the pressure on the healthcare system. These medical digital applications are expected to continue to be widely used in society, in the medical framework, after the corona crisis is hopefully behind us. Despite the considerable benefits of medical technology for patients, healthcare professionals and the healthcare system as a whole are still facing three major challenges. I think we can go on the next slide. Yeah, the first challenge is to make the most of the opportunities offered by medical technology to ensure the quality and sustainability of healthcare. In Belgium, the population over 65 years old will increase from 2.2 million to 2.9 million by 2030. This demographic development will have a significant budget impact on the healthcare system. However, according to an OECD report, up to 20% of national healthcare budgets could be used more efficiently through the adequate and effective implementation of medical technologies. The various medical technologies in place in Belgium may thus bring specific clinical opportunities as well as budgetary efficiency gains. The second challenge medical technology industry is facing is an effective regulatory approach. The technological medical device sector is undergoing major regulatory changes at the European level. And although the implementation of European regulations is widely welcomed by companies, it will still require more efforts and investments within the industry. Finally, the last challenge is to make Belgium a medtech valley. Today, the medical technology industry in Belgium is mainly focused on distribution, and yet the country has everything it takes to become true a medtech valley. It has a fiscal framework to support research, internationally recognized experts, renowned universities that also promote spin-offs, qualified personnel, and sufficient public support and funding for health technology startups. However, for Belgium to become a veritable medtech valley, it must focus on two aspects: increase the attractiveness of the market, and put into place an ideal framework for research, development, and implementation tests. In light of all these assets and its expertise, which will be further outlined by my colleagues of the federal and regional authorities, there is no doubt that Belgium and its healthcare sector will be able to meet these challenges. This concludes my presentation. I thank you for your attention. I did not sneeze nor cough, so that's great. And it's my pleasure to give the floor to Valérie Cuvelier, advisor at the General Directorate of Bilateral Relations of the FPS Foreign Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you for presenting the main conclusions. And I would like now to introduce our federal and regional partners. And we start with Mrs. Valérie Cuvelier, advisor at the Directorate of Economic Interest at the FPS Foreign Affairs. Mrs. Cuvelier, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here today to discuss the topic of health technologies. The health sector, and more specifically the medical technology industry, is a key sector of the Belgian economy. Innovative companies are essential for the development of our economy. They create a fertile ground for new investment. They also lead to the development of unique centers of expertise and knowledge in the country. They result in partnerships with university and high-end study programs and eventually attract even more technological companies. We have many testimonials of companies that want to remain in Belgium because they have highly qualified personnel at hand and know they will be able to recruit with this type of profiles in the future. By supporting these innovative sectors, we can create a snowball effect. I think I can say without pretension that Belgium is succeeding in doing this in the health sector. Many international health tech companies have established and developed their activities in Belgium. We have incubators that allow ideas to be transformed into major technological and economic successes. The success stories outlined in the publication Belgian Health Technologies are proof of this. These successes also become a source of inspiration for future entrepreneurs. By witnessing other people's achievements, researchers feel encouraged to try their luck and launch their own startup. The health sector is a sector of innovation and high added value. Numbers show that companies are indeed ready to invest in R&D in Belgium, and we are, of course, very happy with that. According to the recent numbers, Belgium has the highest level of pharmaceutical investment in R&D per inhabitants among all Europe countries. Investment in R&D have a direct impact on our country's economy. In Belgium, over 200 companies are active in the medical technology sector, and 5,400 researchers were employed in biopharmaceutical companies. The sector employs around 18,000 people, bringing Belgium to the 6th place in Europe in terms of medical technological jobs per capita. We can be delighted with these numbers, given the high productivity of this employment. Our efforts to support the sector have reinforced our position as an importer and exporter of medicines. Belgium has become a major distribution and supply hub of medicines and vaccines in the world. It was again confirmed during the pandemic. The airport of Liège was chosen by the World Health Organization to be the logistics platform for Europe for the supply of the medical equipment. Furthermore, Belgium has contributed significantly to the development of vaccine against COVID-19. Belgium took its responsibilities as a European leader in the conduct of clinical trials in Europe. COVID-19 treatments developed by companies such as Takeda, GSK, and UCB Ventures, together with the Flemish Biotechnologies Institute, had that clinical trials done in Belgium. The German biotech CureVac and the Belgian branch of Johnson & Johnson's, Janssen Pharmaceutica, conducted clinical trials for the COVID-19 vaccines in Belgium. Moreover, as you know, the vaccines of international companies, Pfizer, GSK, and AstraZeneca, are partly being produced in Belgium. Our country took its responsibilities and made sure to keep trade lanes open. We have accounted for 2/3 of all European export and COVID-19 vaccines. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to stress that these results do not come out of nowhere. Belgium and its regions have been very committed to promoting and supporting the medical technology industry. At the international level, we call for a framework that encourages private companies to keep developing new treatments and medical devices that will save and improve lives. Let me finish by saying that Belgium is not only proud to have a strong medical technology industry for the resulting growth and knowledge, but most of all because it's a sector that saves and improves people's lives. It's our responsibility to contribute to reach the Sustainable Development Goals by ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all at all ages. We also believe in vaccine solidarity across the world. To this effect, Belgium has already donated 1.5 million COVID-19 doses. By the end of the year, we should have donated a total of 4 million vaccines. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Cuvelier. And it was really, really interesting and a very good complementary study. I've now the pleasure to welcome Mr. Filip de Weerdt, Science and Technology Coordinator at Flanders Investment and Trade. Mr. de Weerdt, please take the floor.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here today and give this short presentation on medtech in Flanders to give you for all of you. Can I have next slide, please? Okay, for the very few people probably who do not know what Flanders Investment and Trade does, just like our colleagues from HUB.BRUSSELS and colleagues from AWEX, we are a federal agency and we do trade promotion for Flemish companies, so companies that are based in Flanders and want to export. And also we help foreign companies to set up a presence here in Flanders. We have a worldwide network of 98 offices, and recently we've added 10 science and technology offices to this, and it's in more than 40 countries. I will tell you a little bit later about the science and technology offices. That will come in the later slides, but can I have the next slide, please? Okay, I will give you a short illustration of the Flanders ecosystem. I think it's one of the reasons why medtech and biotech is so important and so successful here in Flanders. It's a very busy slide, and I will try to walk you through this. So in the ecosystem here, I've illustrated companies that are actually helping to set up from high technology readiness levels to set up a medtech company. So of course, we have Flemish universities. It's a bit in the lower technology readiness levels, but if you start from the higher ones, you have the research institutes like VIB, IMEC, and VITO that work also closely together with university hospitals or other research institutes or other players which are important, like CD3, Vaccinopolis, and Agentia voor Ondernemen en Innoveren, VLAIO also called. And those are the ones that go from the really basic research and applied research, and we'll try to put it out and get it picked up by companies. Once you have companies, they are grouped in, for example, spear point clusters, like for example, Flanders South and the Valley, where these companies can group together and start off with innovative projects where general parts can be developed together and they share the cost in that way. We should, of course, also think about training of people because the war of talent is really real, and it's also a problem for companies here in Flanders. So Vitaland, Orsi Academy, and FTLs, for example, are really helping in training new people, as operator, for example, in life science and medtech companies. Of course, if you have an idea, you also need to develop it into something like, for example, products or a device. And we have engineering and also design companies that will help you with the design of your medtech, but not only with the design of the medtech itself, but also with how to make it compliant with regulatory principles. Once you have companies that are grouped here, you have also the federations like BE Medtech and Medtech Flanders, but also the CROs, so the research companies, they're also grouped here together, and we have quite a lot of them in Flanders and in Belgium, and they really help into developing, getting products to the markets. Lorenzo mentioned something about, yes, how do you get technology also to the general public? Health House, for example, in Leuven is helping companies to display and to give more attention to the technologies they are developing. Then you have, of course, the incubators. So once you have new companies that have been established and entrepreneurs who look for place where they can sit together with like-minded people and get inspired. You have the incubators, and of course, you have all the international companies present in Flanders that are also contributing to this entire ecosystem, in some cases also investing in new companies and startups, etc. So this entire ecosystem is working together very well, and it actually leads to creation of new medtech and of new products. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, some examples maybe of medtech companies, and you see that they appear everywhere in the entire, let's say, range of medtech products. So you have producers of components, for example, from Felix and Kochlar. They produce really parts that then go into other machines or serve as a platform for developing new medicines. We have clinical diagnostic device companies, we have preclinical test and measurement companies, implants, therapeutic devices, wearables, but also recently you see data analytics coming up very strongly. Molecubes is one of the companies that recently, and can I have next slide, please? Yeah, Molecubes is one of the startup companies, the smaller companies that has recently won line of the export awards of Flanders Investment and Trades. So every year we award companies in different categories. This was in the smaller company category. We award them when they do really well in exports, but not only in exports, but also in sustainability. That's also one of the factors that is taken into account when the trophy is awarded. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so in the start, I mentioned something about the science and technology offices. So recently we have set up a number of science and technology offices everywhere in the world. They are embedded within offices we already have. And these offices have people who are the technology attachés, and they are specialized in technology. So they are scientifically or technologically skilled. So they understand really what technology is about, how difficult it is to develop and sell. And they can help companies getting a foot on the ground. So Flemish companies who wants to go to, for example, America, they can be assisted by our technology attachés, see what is out there in the market, if the market is really for them over there. And they also understand the technological side. So we have them over 10 different locations in the world, spread into the really innovative hotspots in the world. Can I have next slide, please? Moreover, Corona had a problem for us. So getting companies to visit here, Belgium companies and companies in Flanders who are in that ecosystem of the life science, health and biotech, it was a problem to get them here. So what we made is a virtual tour through Flanders, where you can visit a number of these companies in a virtual way. And you can even ask for a guided tour through all these companies, and then somebody of Flanders Investment and Trades will help you and guide you through all these companies and the places that you want to visit. So, okay, this is, I think, where I should conclude. I try to illustrate a little bit of what there is in Flanders, how we are trying to help you as a company from Flanders to export, or foreign companies that want to invest and set up a presence here in Flanders. How can we help them also? So thank you very much for your attention. And I think it will be for the next speaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. De Weerdt. I'm now looking forward to the intervention of Mr. Mehdy Oozeer, Senior Life Sciences Industry Specialist at WALLONIA Trade and Investment Agency, AWEX. Mr. Oozeer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mrs. Charlier, and good afternoon to everyone. So my name is Mehdy Oozeer, and since January this year, I'm working for the life sciences industry sector at AWEX, the WALLONIA Trade Investment Agency. So it's my pleasure today to spend the next minutes with you, making a tour of the health technology industry in Wallonia which is, as you will see, a vibrant and successful sector. Next slide, please. The previous speakers have already emphasized how much the COVID-19 crisis has been a tragedy at both human and economic levels, and how the health industry has managed to bring in record time the solutions that our societies were in need. So those technologies were diverse, from the individual protection equipment to rapid and reliable testing, and to the development, validation, production, and distribution of vaccines. And in particular, digitalization has been key, whether to share scientific data, ensure production rates, allow traceability of products and people, or simply to reduce the disruption of care for patients. So the health technology industry has been stretched, but it rose to the challenge, and it was the case in Wallonia. So let's have a brief overview of the sector, followed by a quick focus on digital health, and then we will take a step back and discuss the strategic axes and challenges for the sector. So if you look at the health life sciences Walloon sector, one of the first things that pop up is the presence of international groups, large companies, and global leaders which structure the ecosystem. And you know them, GSK, UCB, Kaneka, Takeda, and others. But notice also that this year, through record acquisition, 3 new actors have appeared on the regional scene. Catalent, who made of Gosley's its European Center for Cell and Gene Therapy. Thermo Fisher Scientific, who produced viral vector at Senef, or Hologic, who acquired Diagenode in Seraing. But besides those large companies, there is a multitude of innovative startups and medium-sized companies in biotech and medtech, but also in specialized service providers. So the ecosystem is also rich of 5 university research centers and top-class hospitals. And if you look at the figures of researchers, graduates, and hospital beds, they speak for themselves. Next, you will see some data provided by BioWin, the Walloon Health Cluster, about the number of jobs related to the health industry, so 50,000 direct and indirect jobs, the added value that is brought by the industry, the high level of research and innovation private investment, the amount of cumulated fundraising by SMEs in the last 15 years, and this amount is growing every year, and the part of the total export for the region, which is 36%. Finally, a key aspect of the ecosystem is the supply chain and logistics. And to relate to the COVID crisis, and as it already been mentioned, Liège Airport has been selected by the World Health Organization as the European COVID-19 logistic platform. Next slide, please. There are 4 strategic areas in the Walloon health sector. The pharma biotech, with a special importance in cell and gene therapy and in the clinical and commercial production of vaccines and biologics. The medtech sector, which includes medical device and in vitro diagnostics, digital health, including digital medicine, and last but not least, nuclear medicine, which is a strong sector with world leaders in Wallonia. In the new brochure that is presented today, you will find 4 Walloon companies under the spotlight that belong to the first 3 areas. Universals, which aims at bringing scalable, cost-effective solutions for biologic production. BVI Medical, a fast-growing global ophthalmic medical device manufacturer, which acquired the Physiol Group in Liège in 2019. Coris Bioconcept, a developer and manufacturer of rapid diagnostic kits, and who developed such a test to detect the SARS-CoV-2 virus in patients with severe infections. And Neuropath, a digital health startup that developed a multi-channel platform to connect the daily living of persons with Parkinson's with their team of care providers. So more on that in the brochure. Next slide, please. Let's now have a focus on digital health in Wallonia. First, we should salute an initiative from the Mecatech cluster, WSL, the Technology and Techno-Entrepreneur Support Incubator, and BioWin in creating MedTech Wallonia, which aims at promoting and supporting the Walloon MedTech sector, including national and international networking. And speaking of networking, the first MedTech Wallonia is coming soon, as you can see. If we look at the Walloon digital health ecosystem, we see that it is composed mainly of startups and SMEs, but that these companies cover the whole field of e-health, from patient monitoring and therapy to clinical data management, including digitalization of clinical studies. So this is a fast-growing sector, thanks to the innovative mindset of its players, but also to many regional initiatives in the domain coming from Digital Wallonia, Le Patient Numérique, and such as the ENA platform to allow an ethical use of clinical data, the Well Lab on user experience, and Trail on using AI. I should also add here Weerdt Fund, a Belgian early-stage private equity fund founded in 2019 that is entirely dedicated to the medtech sector. Next slide, please. So 3 strategic axes for the health and life sciences industry. 1, continue to grow as a global hub for production and vaccines and biologics. 2, bridging the clinical research and industry worlds to stimulate healthcare innovation. And 3, being able to provide to the sector the talents that it needs today and tomorrow. So quickly, a few examples. Eurogentech and Quantum Bioscience from Universals are active in the in vitro RNA production now. Xavier, a Flemish company, opened up to Walloon investors and partners to produce a monoclonal antibody COVID-19 therapy. The ENA project that we already mentioned, or the future European Biotech Campus, an accelerator that will be dedicated to the development of talents, skills, and companies in the biotechnology and health sector. And please do not forget specific project goals by the Megatech and BioIn cluster. Next slide, please. So a few dates to put on your agenda. So international fairs where AWEX will lead a delegation of Walloon companies such as BioJapan, starting tomorrow, BioEurope Fall and Medica, and several events such as the BSMA, Biosupply Management Alliance annual event on 28th of October, or the BioWin Day on 9 December. Next slide. Thank you very much. This is my last slide, and thank you for your attention. I give the floor to the next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Oozeer. I'm happy to introduce now Mr. Christophe Coppens, advisor and business developer at the cluster lifetech.Brussels for Brussels. Mr. Coppens, you have the floor.
Thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. So good afternoon, everyone. lifetech.Brussels is the health cluster of the Brussels capital region, and we are part of HUB.BRUSSELS, like the other regional and sectorial cluster of the region. We gather also the commercial attaché, like presented by my colleague just before. So this is all the service globalized in HUB.BRUSSELS. A cluster is an ecosystem. You will see on the next slide. Yes. So a cluster is an ecosystem, and it's especially true in the health tech sector. I took this picture because it's a good overview of the different actors that are member of an ecosystem in health tech. Of course, the companies, the startups and the larger one, but also the authorities, the academics, and this is especially true in Brussels, where we have a high concentration of research labs, universities, and higher education schools. We have to count also with the insurers and the investors, of course, the trade association, and all the users. But most of all, we have also to focus on the center, the patients, and the citizens. So next slide, please. As a cluster, we want to work with all this ecosystem to support, but also to stimulate the development of new and innovative solutions, especially in medical technologies and e-health. We have a higher concentration of innovation in medical devices and e-health. This is the reason why we focus on these two topics. And just to give you an example, we have now more than 250 intermediaries, so all the actors you can see on the ecosystem just before, and more than 150 company members, especially active in digital health solution and medical solutions. Next slide, please. Of course, we do not have the time to present all the members, but just to give you an overview, a quick snapshot of some example, and you can find some of them in the brochure. Some names that you apparently know, I think: MoveUp, Access Bionics, Early Tracks, Plibo, Noraventis, Caspar, Spentis, Innovation Sprint, etc. And some of these examples give you an overview of all the topics that we could cover with medical technologies and digital health solution, from monitoring, rehabilitation, prevention, fall detection, robotics, medical records, AI, big data, 3D printing, coaching of patients, etc., etc. So many topics that could be covered. Just to mention that all these innovation, we have them in Brussels, in Belgium, and it's important for the regional authorities and for Belgium to support, but also to give visibility to all these innovation and to these and all these actors, to use them in Belgium, but also abroad. Next slide. Just to support these companies and the entrepreneurs, the cluster has developed different kind of services. From the LifeTech Studio, this is the first service, and this is just to help the entrepreneurs to find their way and to develop their companies, to help them to find the right business model, to find fundings, to internalize also, and to be aware of all the regulation they have to follow. This is just the coaching that we have to provide them to be sure they will be successful and to be active on the market. After that, we have the MedTech Accelerator. This is a collective coaching for early stage entrepreneurs, especially in medical technologies solutions. This is an EU project. And this year we are on the 6th edition. And since 2016, more than 50 startups were already helped. Then you have the MedTech Atelier, because as we help the entrepreneurs on the sectorial and thematic topics, but also on the business aspects, it's also important to help them regarding the development of their solutions. And therefore, we want to give them access to the equipment, but also the expertise and the support needed to develop a first prototype, to be visible and to demonstrate their solutions. So this is why we want to develop our whole ecosystem, giving access to expertise and equipment to develop the first prototype. Then LifeTech Network. This is really the life of a cluster, because as we mentioned just before, an ecosystem with different actors. We have to break the silos to be sure all these actors can speak together and work together. So therefore, we organize many workshops and events, but also pitching sessions to be sure the connection will be made and to be sure that the solution will be visible in Belgium, but also abroad. This is why also we have a specific internationalization support through the commercial attaché, of course, the organization of fair, congress, and specific mission. We've also specific advisor from Enterprise Europe Network and NCP to find the right EU funding, but also to find partners everywhere in Europe. Finally, our new products will be dedicated to prevention. And this project will be where we'll have to focus on facilitate the testing, the validation, and finally the adoption of innovative solutions for primary, secondary, and tertiary healthcare prevention solutions. Thank you. Next one. Okay. To have more information about the cluster, the sector, but also all the members, do not hesitate to visit the website. And of course, I stay at your disposal for any question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coppens. It's now the time for the Q&A, and we received a first question from Mr. Jamil Maxhoud. And I read it, and if one of more speakers want to answer, don't hesitate. So this is a question. Please enlighten me on inventing and delivery of the new devices to control diabetes for the general public. When such modern technologies devices should be available for everyone in Belgium. Thanks. See that, Lorenzo, you switch on your camera. Perhaps you can help us.
Ready to provide an answer.
Yes, thank you.
What I can say is that on the website mhealthbelgium.be, so medicalhealthbelgium.be, but the M is abbreviated, you can find all sorts of relevant apps on various types of pathologies. It's a really practical guide on finding an app related to a pathology. So you have a list of pathologies such as diabetes, but also I don't know, pregnancy, dental diseases, eyes diseases or skin diseases that are listed there, and you can find an app that corresponds to the pathology you want to monitor. So for diabetes, the most well-known app is My Sugar, I believe. I am not diabetic myself, but I think that is the most widespread. And the app makes it possible to manage your diabetes easier and record your blood sugar values and other health data on your smartphone. So I think in the question, there was also a mention on the availability of such applications. The apps are totally free of charge. It's really, if you want to upgrade it to the pro version, that it becomes paid for. So if you look on that website, mhealthbelgium.be, you can also find other apps that manage and monitor diabetes. I can see there is My Diabetes Healthcare. That is another app made available in Belgium for diabetes patients. That is what I can say. I don't know if other colleagues can add something to that question.
Want another speaker add something to Lorenzo? No? Okay, so we still have some minutes. So another question now from Mr. Michel Gerevzov. Workforce has been mentioned by various speakers as a key aspect. What we hear from some universities in Belgium is that recruitment in life sciences is increasingly difficult. Where do we stand on this? Can we accommodate more universities in this sector? A crucial question indeed. Does somebody want to answer this question?
Maybe I can add some parts on that. It's known that it's indeed a problem, not only in life sciences or in health tech, but also in other sectors, that there is a shortage of skilled people. That is exactly why we have a couple of initiatives, like, for example, Vitalent, to train operators, to train in the newest environments, like clean rooms, etc., which becoming increasingly more and more used these days. So indeed, it's really a shortage, and we're trying to, governments of all the part in Belgium are trying to solve this a little bit by making such training facilities available.
Yes, on my side, already mentioned the future project of the European Biotech Campus. Besides that, what already exists is the CEFOCIM, which aims at giving training people in the field, and also you should know that the biotech campus is the building itself, but between now and the building of the campus, there will be programs that will be done in partnership with the industrials in order to already try to fill the gaps that we have in terms of skill and workforce. So yes, I agree with Filip. This is dense, this is hard, but I think that we are doing what is needed in order to fill the shortage.
Thank you. I hope this could help to answer the question. And we will end up with an important reminder from Mr. Munif Kilani, just to tell us that it's important to remind that during the Belgian economic mission to the UK from 6 to 10 March 2022, there will be a collective program focusing on life sciences at London, Oxford, and Cambridge. Any interested company can contact their regional office, Flanders Investment and Trade, AWEX, or HUB.BRUSSELS. Yes, it was important to remind indeed. It's now time to stop right here. I thank you all for your participation and presence at our webinar today and wish you a pleasant reading of the study. Have a good day. Bye.